Not many people know the devastation of losing a loved one to murder. For Betty Sample, it's a chain of events that she's dealt with not only once, but twice.
I'll never live a normal life because I'll never have my mother back. I'll never have my mother-in-law back.
The first go-around started back in 1994 after the death of her mother, Helen Book, a local property owner. Police say 2 of her tenants murdered Helen over rent money and set fire to her body and car out on Fort Benning.
One attacked her from behind with a Nintendo cord and strangled her while the other one held her.
2 years after the crime, the Muskogee County District Attorney cut plea deals with these 2 men, sending Darrell Warren to prison for 20 years and Roland Williams away for life.
I thought, well, he's going to be there for a long, long time. And it was 7 years, basically, and he's up for his first parole. Where is 7 years worth anybody's life?
10 years later, Betty and her family grieved yet again when Columbus police found her mother-in-law, 80-year-old Yanina Sample, dead in her home.
He beat her and choked her and left her for dead.
Police arrested Kenneth Chambers, a homeless man from Columbus, for the break-in and murder. This time, Betty learned her lesson and forced the DA to go for the death penalty, guaranteeing life without parole.
Yes, you go through a big thing with the trial and all, but when the trial is over with, they think, now it's all behind you. It's never behind you. As long as they are in prison and can come up for parole, it's never behind you.
Every 4 years, the 2 men convicted in her mother's murder come up for parole, and each time, Betty is forced to relive the pain of that fateful day 15 years ago.
When you lose someone close to you, it's difficult to deal with it. As time goes by, generally, you tend to deal with it better. But when you have to open these wounds every few years because you've got to fight to keep these people in prison, you can never heal from it.
Adding to Betty's difficulties is that the Georgia Parole Board doesn't actually meet like this parole board in Alabama. And as a result, victims cannot speak in front of them. Betty says her only recourse is writing them letters, hoping to sway them to her side.
The system needs to work for us, the victims. The system works for the criminals, it seems like. We should not be the ones who are burdened to keep these people in prison. There should be something in the system or an organization in the system to fight to keep them in there.
For murder victims in Alabama, Miriam Sheehane is that someone. She heads up the nonprofit organization Victims of Crimes and Leniency, also known as VOCAL. Sheehane started the organization in 1976 after 3 men raped and killed her daughter, Quinette, in Birmingham.
The scales of injustice were so imbalanced, and we started asking questions. How did we get where we are now?
Sheehane and other members of VOCAL spend most of their time working in the Alabama legislature, schmoozing with lawmakers and getting bills passed that protect victims' rights. Sheehane hopes that one day Alabama will get rid of the parole process altogether, easing the burden on thousands of families who have lost loved ones to violent crimes.
We should know when we walk out of that courtroom that they are going to serve what that judge has sentenced them to.
Because of the lobbying efforts from groups like VOCAL, Alabama has more laws on the books than most states when it comes to victims' rights. Families are even allowed to come in front of the parole board when their loved one's killer is up for release. But here in Georgia, things work very differently. So we came to the state capitol to ask questions and find out why. You know, a couple people that we've talked to have really said that the parole board system works for the criminals and not for the families of these murder victims. What do you have to say to that?
The Board of Parole is very interested in hearing from victims of especially violent crimes, something that has impacted that family immediately and will impact them the remainder of their lives.
Many victims say their only way of communication with the parole board is to write letters when their felon is up for release. But chairman of the board, Gail Buckner, says people can call and email the office to talk to someone at any time. In addition, the board organizes victims' visitors days all over the state. And even if it's not near a felon's time of release, these families can still come and talk to board members directly.
Those victims' voices are heard. That contact is also put into the inmate file, so we'll have a reminder of their expressions at the time that we consider those files again.
There are other states like Alabama who find the time, find the money to have a parole board meeting and let the victim's family come and speak every single time that person comes up for parole. Why can't that be done here in Georgia?
Lori, I don't know what their prison population is. I don't know how many board members they have in Alabama. I can only speak here in Georgia. There are 5 parole board members for the entire 55,000 plus inmate population in the state of Georgia. There just simply is not enough opportunities for us to be able to sit down with each victim every time that they want to come in to talk with us.
Looking at the numbers, Georgia's prison population is twice the size of Alabama's, with more than double the amount of cases being considered by the Georgia Parole Board. But family members say it doesn't matter. The board should make the time, and they should have the right to tell their story when it counts.
Anytime you can make a face-to-face plea with someone, it carries much, much more impact than for someone to sit here and read a piece of paper. That paper does not show any emotion.
Just being able to let them know how it has affected your life is very therapeutic.
Right now, there is no organization like Vocal that exists in Georgia to protect victims' rights. Advocates like Sheehan say families need to start organizing and standing up for their rights, because it's the only way that the system will change to keep more convicted killers locked up behind bars.
Put a face to that file that they're looking at. It would change a lot of decisions, I'll grant you.